My name is Oneyda Maestas, and I am the director of the Cultural Awareness Student Achievement Center here at Adams State University, and the acronym is the CASA Center. I heard about the Corn Mothers Project when Dr. Fajardo and the Metro State Journey Through Our Heritage organization came to Adams State last year, and they participated in an event programming that we were doing at the Cultural Center. We brought in Bertha Garcia, who is world known for her bread baking skills, and she's probably the best Orno bread baker in all of the Four Corners area. And after that day, Dr. Fajardo said, "Wow, you really are preserving heritage and culture." And she told me about the Corn Mothers Project. She showed me the book from last year, and she said, "This would be great if you would be one of our Corn Mothers. We'd really be honored." And so I had no idea what a Corn Mother was, and so I had to research the Corn Mothers book, and I thought, wow, I wasn't sure I was seasoned enough to be a Corn Mother. And then I started reflecting on all the things that I have done in my 23 years of career in education, and knew that I did have that background and that I was worthy of that title. It was just quite an honor, because you don't think about all the things that you do, and you certainly never think you're going to be honored for what you do. And so it was quite a surprise, her asking me to participate in the Corn Mothers of the Valley. And like I said, I'm very pleasantly surprised and truly honored to be a part of this project. I was actually raised in a very small town in southeastern Colorado, Kim, Colorado, and I was raised in a family who raised our own animals for sustainability and for food for our table. So having that small town upbringing, I learned how to live with hard work ethics and honor and truth, and my father taught us how to use the things that we had, because we lived so far away from the big city. It was an hour away to get to the closest grocery store, the closest hospital, the closest doctor's office. And we really did live off the land. We used herbs from the campo. So my grandmother taught us how to pick herbs. She taught us how to pick tea. One specific tea that I still pick to this day is called té de cota, or Navajo tea. And that was our tea growing up. I didn't know that tea came in a tea bag, because Grandma would always make us té de cota, which we picked from the fields in late June, July. Also, we raised our own animals, so our chores were to feed the animals and take care of them. And unfortunately, I became attached to the animals, and they became my pets. So when it was time for butchering, I was a very sad little girl, and I refused to eat the meat because I was eating my pet. And so my mother strategically bought a pound of hamburger from Safeway, and she saved the wrapper that said Safeway along with the styrofoam container. And anytime she thawed out Wally, who happened to be a calf that I raised, she would put a little bit of meat from the calf Wally onto the styrofoam plate and put the Safeway wrapper over it. And she would show me that my meat came from Safeway and not from my pet. And all this time, little did I know, I was eating my pet. And that's how she got me to eat. So my mother was strategic and brilliant in tricking me to actually eat meat. And now, growing up, I realized that eating the food that we raised was so much better than anything you could ever buy at the store, because we know what we fed it, and it was organically raised, and so you don't think about those things until you become older. And now I'm thankful that my mom was creative and intelligent enough to do what she did to get me to eat the food. And now I pay it forward in my work today. We have matanzas all the time, and I surprised my father because he said, "You're doing what? You're butchering a pig?" And he goes, "But you hated that as a child." And I said, "Yeah, I hated it because those were my pets." And I said, "I'm not attached to these pets." So I think having those strong work ethics and working hard and working the land really gave us that integrity and compassion and selflessness to move forward with what I do in my career today. And I still carry those traits from my childhood, from growing up in the small town of Kim, Colorado. I guess my life philosophy would be, or what I talked about in the Corn Mothers as my life philosophy is truly knowing where you come from, knowing how you were raised, your background, your family, your roots. It's really important to go back to who you are and where you came from so that that strength can carry you through to who you want to become. I think that we always have to go back to our strong roots. I know for me, I go back to those hard work ethics that I was taught, and I go back to the honesty and truth that my parents taught me. My mom always said that for the truth, even though it might be something punishable, but for truth, I would receive a lesser punishment, but for a lie, I would receive double punishment. So I always prided myself on being truthful, and even when the truth is hard to talk about. So I really value those values and those morals and the character and integrity that I was brought up with. I was raised with a very old-fashioned grandmother who only spoke Spanish, and she just had great integrity and great character, and I really appreciate my grandmother for instilling that in us, even though at times we thought she was very old-fashioned. So my life quote is by a man that I studied in my master's degree. His name is Eugene Garcia. And this quote really spoke to me in my class. It was a class called Educating Diverse Learners. And I ran across this quote, and it was so me, and it has become my favorite quote since. And so I will share it with you. My life quote is, "If you have no roots, how can you withstand the tests of the environment that surely come?" For me as an individual with a set of cultural and linguistic roots, if my roots were to die and I was to be stripped of the integrity that lies in those roots, then I would also disappear along with all that is important to me. My favorite life quote, translated into Spanish. Si no tienes raíces, ¿cómo puedes tolerar las pruebas de la naturaleza que seguramente vendrán? Para mí, como un individuo con una serie de raíces culturales y lingüísticas, si murieran mis raíces y si fuera despojado de toda integridad que radica en esas raíces, entonces también yo desaparecería junto con todo lo que me es importante. And I think that's so true. And I live by that daily. If I had no roots, how do I know who I am or who I am to become? And that's become a part of my life's work. And so as I venture into my career of directing the Cultural Center, I really instill that in my students, that sometimes we go through identity shifts or a crises, and we have to remember who we are and what made us strong in the first place. I can count on my roots to help me stand back up or to get back up one more time.